Hello, everyone. And today I want to talk to you about working with your ancestral lineage, working with your bloodlines, and why it's so important. Now, I've been working with the ancestral lineage for myself and for people for maybe the last 3-4 years. And I found this work to be extremely deep and extremely profound. Now, I thought I'd create a quick little video to talk to you about the benefits of working with your ancestral lineage. So one of the major benefits of working with your ancestral lineage is it really gives us a sense of identity. That's why people's family trees have kind of really taken popularity. And it's one of the biggest questions that we ask ourselves is, who am I? And why am I here? And connecting to your ancestral lineage will at least help you with the who am I aspect of who you are. It will give you a sense of understanding who you are. But within the Akashic Records, we actually look at why you chose to be born under that lineage as well, because there are aspects of that lineage that you need to explore within this lineage. And that's a whole topic on itself. But one of the major things of working with your ancestral lineage is to really get to know who you are. It gives you a sense of who you are. The cocktail that you chose of different genes, to experience this journey while you're here. The second one is really about connection and understanding. So working with the ancestral lineage helps you to understand why you do certain things that you do. So many times you like, oh my goodness, I'm becoming my mother or my grandmother or my dad, whoever it is. It's because those traits are actually passed down intergenerationally. We end up experiencing the aftermath of the traumas that our ancestors went through. So sometimes by connecting to our ancestors allows us to have an understanding of why we do certain things that we do, why we fear certain things that we fear, why we oppose certain things that we do, and why we love certain things that we do as well. So it gives us that sense of connection to various cultures, various teachings, knowledge and wisdom that is out there as well. The other reason why we want to connect to our ancestors and work with our ancestors is because it also helps us to understand our health. Now, when we look at things from an Akashic perspective and healing, we start to notice that not only is healing on a physical level, but we're healing on a physical, because we're having a physical experience, an etheric, a mental and emotional level. But a lot of the things, again, have been inherited by our ancestors, by our lineage. So besides it helping to understand our health, it's not only physical health that it helps us to understand, but it helps us to understand our mental and emotional health as well. And it also, for example, sometimes a lot of cancer could be, and I'm generalizing here, be connected to anger. So for example, if sometimes cancer presents itself in the breasts, it's because there's an aspect of the female or the maternal lineage that has been suppressed over a long time, and perhaps not even being able to express themselves completely and fully. And then it presents itself as cancer eventually, right? And that's when we start looking at like, these inherited diseases. It's quite interesting, because if we look at healing from a complete perspective, what are we healing mentally and emotionally? And that is a lot of beliefs that have been carried down. So one of the other things, which is probably the third point that I'd like to make, is it helps us to recognize what our limitations are, or that we've chosen. Now, understanding the limitations means that we can then change it. It doesn't mean that, because X was lazy in my bloodline means that I'm lazy and therefore I'm sitting back. That is a choice, of course, but knowing that that is a limitation, we could shift through that, right? Or for example, a lot of people are born into pattern behavior of intergenerational addictions, for example. But understanding that means that, okay, this is an awareness that I have, and now we need to shift that. And from an Akashic perspective, you chose your bloodlines because of the limitations. A lot of the times it's to overcome these limitations, okay? That's why sometimes we're like, no, I don't want to be anything like my parents, right? That brings me to the next point, is recognizing the gifts, right, that are also passed down, where it's kind of like, no, I have somebody in my family that, you know, was an amazing X, Y, and Z. I can activate those genes within me because they are within you, right? So identifying the gifts that, you know, those lineages that you've chosen also have to offer. So for example, I find that a lot of friends of mine that are born to professors and doctors, they end up, you know, having, and again, everything's a double-edged sword. It kind of like they're not limited by any kind of like expansion of the mind, for example, which is pretty amazing. So these are gifts that were actually given. The sixth one is understanding the family dynamics and patterns. Okay, so you start to understand, okay, so my grandmother was, or my grandfather was treated this way, you know, my dad does it, and this is why it's become, you know, this is this dynamic of the family that is what we're trying to, you know, overcome. What are these family patterns that we're moving through? The other thing that I found when working with ancestral lineage is that when we do our healing, we not only heal for ourselves, but we heal for 7 generations before and 7 generations to come. So it is important to understand who we are, where we've come from, look at those limitations, try to overcome those limitations, because I always say we spend most of our early lives learning, and then most of our adulthood trying to unlearn and relearn things in a different way so that we can then help our children. So what happens is that once we shift and heal ourselves, we're healing the 7 generations before and the 7 generations to come as well. So it really does impact the future generations. And even if you don't have children, if you have siblings or any other relations with you, it will help to shift their DNA. It will help to shift who they are as well, because we're all interconnected somehow, somewhere. We are one. Another thing that it also helps you with is it gives you a sense of purpose. Now, a lot of the times, it is the belief that we choose these families because of their limitations, because of, you know, what we're wishing to overcome. And that gives us a sense of purpose in the world. Because a lot of the traumas that we experience them in a way that we overcome them, and then we help others. Now, I'm not excusing any behaviors, but a lot of the times when children are born into families, well, everybody, when we're born into families, we come with an awareness of the possibilities of outcome, okay? But we are not limited that, because the wonderful thing about this place is that we have free will, okay? So understanding, okay, you know, there's this intergenerational pattern that is happening. I've come to shift that for the future generations, to heal that for the previous generations at the same time. And one of the other things that it gives you is it gives you an understanding and a compassion sometimes for, you know, the stresses that our forefathers endured, and, you know, for the bravery that they did to perhaps travel to a different land, to suffer, to, you know, to really strive to make things better for the next generation. So we start to understand, you know, certain behaviors, and hopefully it gives us a little bit of compassion for ourselves and for the generations that were here, and the generations that are here, and the generations that are still yet to come. So igniting that aspect of it. So I love working with ancestral healing. Just again, as I say, it's very deep and it's very profound. But those are a few reasons of why you would benefit from working on your own ancestral lineage. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you soon.